There we go. Hello and welcome to KCRep's fifth Thursday night mixer. I'm Stuart Carden, the artistic director of KCRep, and this week's lineup of theater artists include actor and creator Yetunde Felix-Ukwu and actor, there she is, and actor, writer, and content creator Khalif Gillett.
Hello.
They're joining us to talk about their web series, Acting Black. It's the featured beautifully right there, which you can find on YouTube. And we're gonna talk a little bit about Acting Black, but also partner and co-host this event. And I'm going to participate in some of the things that they do on their web series. And Khalif and Yetunde are going to frame that for us in a minute. But as for those that have joined us for the Thursday night mixer before, you know what we start off with. And I'm going to be the only one actively mixing tonight's drink because we've got Khalif almost to the West Coast and Yetunde almost to the East Coast. And so they have gifted their cocktail kits. Do you want to share who you've gifted them to here in Kansas City?
My cocktail kit went to Amber McKinnon.
Yeah, and my cocktail kit went to one of Yetunde and my grad school cohorts, Freddie Acevedo.
Hi guys!
If you're out there, thanks. I hope you're mixing along with us. And I hope others out there that have joined on this Thursday night mixer are mixing along with us. So for those that have joined before, we're gonna mix a cocktail and then we're gonna engage in some creative conversation. And this one with special guests, we're gonna do it in a slightly new format. And we're gonna do this for about an hour. 40 minutes into this or so, after we engage for a little while, we'll open up for questions from Facebook and we'll try to get to as many as we can. But thanks for joining us tonight. I'm really appreciative of Yetunde and Khalif for joining us at this Thursday night mixer. So we're gonna mix first. So our Thursday night sponsor is Lifted Spirits Distillery. And this week, instead of partnering with another bar or restaurant, they are featuring their own cocktail. One of their best sellers, the East Side Sour. And it includes, and Yetunde somehow got all the ingredients to make her own.
It's the East Coast Sour.
And it features bright gin.
Yep, check.
And then this elixir right here, that is a batch of house sour mix, cranberry juice, and fall spice bitters. You shake and then serve over ice, and you garnish with a lemon twist. I'm going to attempt to do this quickly.
Okay.
It is already mixed.
Yes, I'm already mixed, and it's
I don't know,
ready to go.
have we seen Khalif's beverage of choice? And maybe you want to hold off on that. It's up to you.
Yeah, I can introduce it right now while you're mixing.
Okay.
Being the California boy that I am, I decided to stick to my guns and go with the classic Corona. It's always there for you, whether you need a laugh, a party, or you need to fight. Corona's always involved. So.
How apropos.
Have your thoughts about drinking Corona and the unfortunate name connection to the coronavirus?
For a second, it did.
Has that changed your feelings?
And then I was like, it's like reclaiming something. So I'm gonna reclaim Corona since the virus tried to claim it. And I'm like, get out of here.
Get out of here. So I'm pouring 2 ounces of gin to begin with. I'm doing this off camera because I don't want to make a mess.
Stuart, do you have a heavy pour?
I have a very light pour tonight.
Okay. Okay.
I typically enjoy heavy pour, but tonight
I've been to a few bars in Chicago, and I didn't know if you had a heavy-handed Chicago pour.
Maybe I'll say I have a heavy-handed Kentucky pour. Tonight, with the how full everything is right now, I think a light pour is in order. So I'm adding 1.75 ounces of the batch, the house sour mix, cranberry juice, and fall spice bitters, which smell amazing.
I'm basically a bartender now because I made that elixir with all of the, I didn't know the measurements, so I just kind of winged it, and it tastes really yummy.
And then I've been using this every week, and I don't know if I've washed it, but
it just adds a little flavor, a little pizzazz.
My trusty chopstick.
It's a seasoned stir. It's got seasoning on it.
The mix. And I'm almost done. And they said to add a lemon twist.
You have a lemon twist? Oh, yay, lemon twist.
I just ran downstairs to go get.
I
meant to have a lime, but the lime in the kitchen was dry, and I didn't feel like going to the store again. But so a lime is there in spirit.
Cheers.
Spirited lime. Cheers. From here to where you are and through the digital universe. Cheers. Thank you so much for joining me in featuring Acting Black, and also having a spirited conversation in relationship to it. So cheers. I'm going to sip.
Cheers. So I would say that we are co-hosting. And so that would lead us to introduce Acting Black. Do you want to go first, Khalif, and talk about what Acting Black is?
Sure. Acting Black was created in the spirit of multiple YouTube series of like variety studio actor on actors and behind the camera on, I can't remember the other channel right now, but in the spirit of those where you just get to see actors conversing and talking about their crafts with people they admire, people they've worked with before. And so we were like, well, we have those type of conversations all the time. They're just tailored to our experiences as Black actors at the time in our grad program and now post-grad school. And so I had some lights and a camera, and Yetunde and I sat down at a restaurant and we're just like, let's make this happen.
Yeah.
And it happened.
And it's weird, we call it a video cast because the spirit behind it was to make it a podcast, but we were too excited to be on camera. So it's like a web series podcast. And so we just came up with the term video cast just to kind of differentiate ourselves. But yeah, we're tackling issues that we all go through and we all talk about just casually, and just amplifying the conversations and putting them on camera. And I think it's really been cool because the conversations have resonated with artists all across the board. And so we're really encouraged to just keep having these conversations out loud.
Yeah.
And so there's roughly 10 episodes.
Right now we're at about 11 episodes. Our last episode has been our most popular. It was with Chip Miller. And yeah, we're right at 11 episodes, and hopefully we can make this into our 12th episode.
Yeah.
One of the things that I love about, first of all, yeah, go for it. if it lives up to the quality of what you all do. One of the things that I love about what you all do in that series, and I still want to ask one more why question, but one of the things I love about what you do in that series is the way that it's edited, honestly. Like I love how there's one basic theme that you're after, and you like jump cut the conversation and you get to a lot in a really short amount of time. And the spirit of it is engaging, really thoughtful, compelling, sometimes difficult or painful subject matters, but the spirit of it is one of a private conversation made public between friends, and the energy of it is so engaging. So yeah, I love it. So one of my questions is why, when you thought about an audience and you think about making episode, who are you thinking about? Like, who are you making this for?
I think we're making it for us. It would have been cool to have I would have loved to watch something like this while I was in grad school. So it's made for artists everywhere, of all different disciplines, but we named it Acting Black because it's specifically about the experiences of Black actors, who we are, that's who we are, but we're curious about all other disciplines. And so it's Acting Black because it's a play on us deciding to embrace, so many times we feel that we have to act other ways. And so it's a play on just acting and being who we are, acting Black. It's a play on the fact that we're acting while we're Black, because that's an experience in itself, which we're going to talk about soon. And it's short the way it is because you have two people who have very short attention spans. Because if we start getting tired, we know that other people are gonna like not pay attention. And so we started, our shortest episode, I think in the beginning was 4 minutes. They've graduated to be about 10 to 12 minutes now. But we like that short kamikaze style, get in, talk about it, and get out.
Yeah, and that's been, I think, such a cool experience editing these videos, because when we record on Zoom, we record for 30 to 45 minutes. Basically, it gives us time to like warm up with the guest, and then eventually, in going through the editing process, you get to a point where you're watching the video where you're like, that's the episode. And that's like that 10 minutes that we like sort of pull out, mixed with a little bit of like joking here and there, just so that they get a little personality and lightheartedness, and we ease them into the conversation. And then it's like, all right, we'll give you something that's actually useful to you. Yeah.
And also,
you're interviewing people. Oh yeah, you're interviewing people, but then you're also doing what Yetunde is about to.
Yes, it's growing as we grow. When we first started, we were sitting together in Khalif's bedroom with the light set up, and like you said, it was that intimate conversation that we just happened to be recording. Then Corona happened, and we're thousands of miles apart. We want to know what's going on with everybody else, and so then it changed, and we're interviewing. And so the grab bag is still happening. It's just getting edited out because we still are lobbing the questions at our guests, but we're not. It's not in the video the way it was in the beginning. And so the grab bag started because we had so many things to talk about, so many things that we had touched on, and we were trying to figure out what's the best way to just go and hit each one. And so we just threw all the topics into, I think it was a pencil case the first time, and we pulled them out, and it was like, what do you have to say about it? What do you have to say about it? And so that's where the grab bag started.
When we were talking about doing this earlier in the week, I had never said grab bag so many times in my life, and I kept saying grab bag, grab bag, grab bag, but it's not a bag. You typically have like some plastic.
It's whatever receptacle.
Yes,
it's a holding apparatus.
So we decided that we would incorporate that into this format and see if we can partner and
merge platforms.
Merge. And one of the things that you said in that conversation, Yetunde, about as we were leading up to this was that, and you said it so beautifully, and I wrote it down.
I'm good because I don't remember what I said.
But now I can't see it. Now I can't see it. I will try to paraphrase it. It's not going to be as said as beautifully as you said it, but that both with your Acting Black series but also this conversation, it's an opportunity to have a public conversation that's happening privately in the American theater right now.
Yeah.
We took a hiatus last week from the mixer, both because of some really challenging and seismic changes that are happening inside of KCRep in response to the pandemic, and also to reflect and think about individually and collectively as an organization about the killing of George Floyd and Breonna, and on and on and on, and the history of violence and brutality in this in America, and the reverberations of the protests that are happening and the societal revolution that's going on every level, including in the theater.
Yeah.
Last week was a lot about engaging, reflecting, thinking, asking hard questions of ourselves, engaging with our peers all over the country and in Kansas City. And that's why we started to talk about, well, what if we had a public conversation about conversations that right now are being held in private?
Yeah.
Does that capture?
Yeah, I think that really captures like the world shifted when all of those events happened, and it's like there was a snapping of fingers and everyone came to attention. And so there's a lot of things that are happening publicly. There's petitions flying around, but there's also a lot of hard conversations that are happening. And I think there's a little bit of fear surrounding who you're able to talk to, what you're allowed to say when you have these conversations. And so this is really warming my heart for this opportunity to have what would normally be in your office, you know, just at a board meeting or a staff meeting, but we're having it because the privacy of it all is kind of how we got to that place that we want to get away from. Let's open the doors. Let's air out our issues. Let's not be scared to have these conversations anymore. And so we were all a little bit terrified when we said, let's do this. Like, right? All three of us were like, oh, but I think just opening it up, adding alcohol to the mix and just taking the pressure off so we can just have the conversation. Nothing moves forward, nothing changes without communication. And so, yeah, that pretty much encapsulates why we're here.
Yeah.
I think with Acting Black, it became very apparent early on when we were doing it that we couldn't do it with fear and with that feeling of we have to be careful what we say and who we say it in front of. Like, we do it with respect. We're not trying to slander anyone's name, but it is very important that we say what's on our minds and in our hearts with our experiences, because that's the only way people will know that they're not alone in whatever they're experiencing as a Black, Indigenous person of color. I've
been excited about this conversation and in large part because of the watching Acting Black. And for those that haven't watched it, you should watch it and subscribe. It's really fun, and I've learned from watching the web series, and I think most people will too. So I think that Jen, who's facilitating this conversation on the technology front and getting this out there, is going to share a link. Maybe I'm putting you on the spot, Jen. Sorry if I am. Share a link to your YouTube channel to watch. Not right now because you're with me.
Don't leave yet. Don't leave yet. Stay here.
So how do you want to do this? You want to transition into?
Well, for everyone, we're not here to ambush anyone. So even when we do it on our show, we know kind of what's in the grab bag already. So Stuart has a grab bag of things that we're asking him, and we have here a grab bag full of things that he's asking us, and we'll just like pick a question and talk. So do you want to go first, Stuart? We'll give you the honor of going first.
Take the floor.
He's pulling up questions that we have asked of him.
I'm highlighting my grab box, which is
that is beautiful.
There's one of my twins, Griffin's Lego special.
Yay, Griffin.
It gives me Playhouse Disney flashbacks, and I love it.
And I think you all sent me around 10-ish questions.
Side note, we sent him a lot of questions. We're not going to get to them all. These are challenging questions. And just kudos to all of us for moving with courage and bravery to answer the tough questions. And
I'm going to mix them up, and I don't know what's coming. I know what's coming. I've read all of them, but I'm going to mix them up.
It adds a little bit of excitement to the mix.
The first one, which is, people can see that. And I'm going to try to read it backwards.
Oh my
Creating
God.
safe spaces. And then it's probably small print, so I'll just read the rest. Creating safe spaces is the first one that I picked. And when doing plays about race issues written by white playwrights, intimacy direction exists. How do we create systems to protect people from the traumatic themes of race plays? So when doing plays about race issues written by white playwrights, intimacy direction exists. How do we create systems to protect people from the traumatic themes of race plays? Yeah. So intimacy direction in and of itself is very new to our industry. I mean, the first time that I worked with an intimacy director, and for those of you out there that may be curious about what that even means, which is a choreographer for intimate, mainly physical and sexual storytelling moments in a play. And so this is basically like, most people know what a fight choreographer is. This is an intimacy choreographer. And it's fairly new. And I think back to some of the plays that I did even 8 years ago, like David Harrower's Blackbird, if anyone knows that piece, which is a harrowing story of a 20-something woman confronting the man who molested her when she was and groomed her for when she was 16 or maybe even 15, and she's come to confront. And looking back at projects like that, where I can't believe we did not have an intimacy director on that project. And both for the protection of the young actor playing the female role, but also for the protection of the older male, the protection and container for setting rules and groundwork of how we agreed we were going to partner in these really intimate moments. And I only started working with intimacy directors probably the first time in a significant professional setting was 3 years ago. So that, I think that in and of itself is new to the industry and really, really crucial. And we just experienced with Legacyland, and which was written by the really remarkable Stacey Rose. And we premiered and had our opening closing on the same night, which I can't believe was just 3 months ago. I can't even remember.
Yeah.
It was like 2 years ago. And that process really, really told me that we've got to rethink how we also approach not only sexual trauma in the theater, but also racial trauma in the theater. And I don't know what that looks like exactly.
Yeah.
A lot of people are trying to figure out what that looks like. And we provided and partnered with Moxa that helped facilitate conversation, that gave an outlet and resource for artists. But they are remarkable. They are remarkable. But in terms of a theater-specific approach to this, Khalif, we just got 2 of you for a second.
Sorry, my internet was unstable. I had to switch to my phone.
No, that's all good. We just had 2 of you for a second. I think there's some really important work to be done in terms of that. And I think we're on the same path and period of understanding about that as we were about intimacy direction. yeah, so that's my thoughts on creating safe spaces and protecting people from the traumatic themes of race plays.
Yeah, I think that it's one of those questions that's like asked and answered. Just bringing it up as a topic shows that it needs to exist. And so I think I just echo, it may have to go through the same struggles that intimacy direction went through, because not everybody was receptive to the need. Oh, you're taking away the spontaneity of it all. But no one ever approaches a fight spontaneously. It's all very choreographed. And so I think
put a broadsword in their hand and say, go for it spontaneously.
Yeah. So I think just acknowledging that there is trauma to be experienced when delving into plays that involve those sensitive words and involve those themes, and not just expecting them to figure it out. I think acknowledging that it needs to exist is just the first step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it also reflects, I think, the incremental steps that some theaters are doing, just thinking about even how you audition for a play that has as one of its themes perhaps some investigation and exploration and living through racial trauma. And even I think thinking about in terms of intimacy direction and what that might look like around themes like I just shared, but also the whole process of when you are walking into audition for, and you're asked to be really, I mean, that's some of the scariest stuff, is you don't know who's in the room with you. You're asked to open yourself up to live inside of a character's trauma, and there's so little container and context for who you're in the room with.
Yeah.
And
I think that's a really important point of who's in the room, even in auditioning. That's a topic that Khalif and I have touched on, is being sensitive to who you put in the room when you're just auditions in general, but specifically with plays that have race themes. And if you're asking someone for a callback and that's the material, a lot of times we're in rooms where we're the only brown face or the only black face. And that can be extremely alienating. And you just have to fold it into your work. It's so much so that I didn't even realize it was a stressful thing until someone else said, yeah, that stresses me out too. Always walking into a room and performing in front of a sea of white spaces, really delicate and vulnerable subject matter.
Yeah, and sometimes it can really take the work as well. I've been in those rooms where it's like you have to put your trauma and your existence on display for a room full of people that don't look like you. And sometimes there have been times where it's like there's no one in the building that currently looks like me. And I feel like that's something that other white artists, they don't oftentimes have to have a second thought about. Like when they're going into a rehearsal room for the first day of rehearsal, they're not thinking about, oh God, I'm wondering if I'm going to be the only white person in the room, because it's just something that you don't find often in theater.
And this may sound like a really naive question, but could you name what that feels like? Naive. I mean, I think in terms of understanding, for maybe a KCRep friend that is a white KCRep friend that's watching this right now, could you name that so that there's a perspective?
Yeah, I think for me, something that I likened it to, and it may seem extreme to some people, it felt like minstrelsy to me. Putting myself on display like that and having to act and having to put on my best smile and my best like big boy pants and go and do this role in front of people. It felt like minstrelsy. Yeah, is what it felt. I felt like I was like dancing for your pleasure, but my oppression.
Uh-huh.
For me, it feels like as performers, yes, sometimes we're performing to a sea of faces that don't look like us, but there's a little bit of separation because the audience is dark and you're just doing and you're giving your work. But when it's in an audition room, that smaller space is very much more intimate. You're looking into the eyes of people. And I liken it to like going to a party where you don't know anyone.
Yeah.
And no matter how extroverted you are, that's a challenging place to be. Now imagine being in that place, but having to open yourself up completely and go to your most vulnerable self to produce your best work in a tight room full of complete strangers. It's just very difficult. And I know that seeing a brown face who might be a stranger might not seem like much, but it makes a huge difference. It's like you release tension that you didn't realize you were carrying upon seeing a face that looks like yours in that very intimate and already challenging space. Auditioning is one of the most challenging parts of our job. Yeah. And so to have that extra added pressure or conversely, that extra added alleviation of some little bit of stress makes a huge difference.
And it's never seen and it's never paid.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I think that's something that on a really fundamental level that audiences or like people that just aren't in the theater don't understand like what auditioning is about. It's so much of your work and it's completely unpaid.
Yes.
Going for that job interview, but also sometimes, not always, you're not always looking into yourself up. Sometimes you're hitting some copy from a commercial that costs you nothing. But it's again, that has cost, and then you add to it a space that makes you feel like you're being watched rather than being.
And it's an unintentional impact. It's like these are the people who are on the casting team. You're not meaning to intimidate, but it's just one of those unintended consequences.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Should you all do one?
All right. So I'll pull it out, and then Khalif, you can go for it since I got to pull it out.
All right.
And these are questions that Stuart is asking us. Allyship. What does being an ally to Black theater artists look like for a theater organization?
And in full transparency, they asked me that question from the opposite side, and I loved it. And
okay, good. So then you get to answer it too. So go for it. We'll all answer it.
Okay. All right. I think allyship from a theater to a BIPOC looks like. To start, it can look as simple as checking in. It can look as simple as being like.
Sorry, say that again. Say that again. It could look as simple as, sorry.
It can look as simple as checking in and saying, how do you feel about this? Does this make you feel uncomfortable? Is there a better way we can go about this that would make you more comfortable? And then going beyond that, just on like the human level, there is putting those systems in space, like we talked about, and a sort of intimacy director for racial issues, as well as getting audience in there that looks like them as well, so that they can be performing for their peers and for their community, and so that their community feels welcome in that theater. Those are just a few things that I think allyship from a theater looks like.
For me, I think allyship for a theater. Okay, so as actors, one thing that I repeatedly heard and that I continue to hear is make bold choices, right? Nobody wants an actor who just kind of wangles in the middle. And so that's what I would say to the American theaters, make bold choices. I know that sometimes in your season selection and in other ways, it can be easy to stay in the middle, but the middle is how we got here. The middle is problematic. And so I would say make bold choices in every area. I think a lot of people aren't unaware of what it takes to be more diverse, equitable, and inclusive. People know the things. It just takes boldness and courage to do it in the face of whatever the bottom line might be. I know that many times the bottom line is the budget and the bottom line is donor sentiment. But I would say that allyship and what it looks like now, what it looks on the streets while people are protesting. Yeah. It means I'm going to theoretically put myself in harm's way in order to protect you. And so I think a theater being an ally is saying, I'm going to make the bold or difficult or risky choice to make this decision that favors a more equitable, diverse, and inclusive space, even if it's difficult, even if it's challenging. So I would just say make bold choices.
That's great. Thank you. I think allyship, and I'm trying to be concise because
eloquent out loud. It's fine.
I think that there's right now what allyship looks like for a predominantly white regional theater nonprofit arts organization. And as the artistic director of KCRep, I feel like right now I've been thinking about both the balance of really listening and learning and asking questions and of myself, of my fellow Caucasian theater makers, of my authentic relationships I have with colleagues that are Black, Indigenous, people of color, and like really having conversations and listening and learning. And that's part of it. It's also for me right now, and that's organization wide.
Yeah,
you know, that's the whole theater. That's not just me, but that is all of us, from the boardroom to our offices, to our front of house, to our backstage, inviting and partnering to think about and name KCRep as an anti-racist organization. That's part of it. I think the other like actionable part of it that I've been thinking about a lot lately, and I'm going to get super specific for a moment, just as an example. And Yetunde, you know about this. But I also, KCRep, I'm so happy to be the new artistic director of KCRep and to be a part of this community and have the opportunity to fulfill the vision that I shared with the board when I was interviewing for the job. And one of those things was really about how do we, KCRep has really come in relationship to a lot of theaters in the country, has on the stage led with regional theaters, predominantly white regional theaters our size, has really led the way in terms of becoming a more diverse and representative stage. In other areas, particularly when you get behind what we call behind the desk, we are very much in the middle of the pack. And that's one of the earliest actionable things that I brought to, and this moment has demanded me to double down on, is working towards behind the table, whether that's in our artistic office or in right now, I'm going to talk specifically about designers, Yetunde, which is one of the things that I brought from my freelance practice was prioritizing equity in the design team. So right, there's typically four designers on every design team: scenic design, costume, lighting, sound design, and bringing what I was doing in my own freelance practice, which is if I was hired to direct a show, then I would say, great, this is the team that I want to partner on telling it, and prioritizing an equitable approach racially and in terms of gender identification. And that this is a private thing that we've been talking about at KCRep that I'm sharing publicly now, that is a priority that we're working, that we are putting into practice in all of our future seasons. And so I think part of being an ally, and sorry, that went on longer than I wanted, but part of being an ally is also that active, actionable, put the theoretical into practice around this now. And the amazing thing about this movement that's happening society-wide to every organization, that people are thinking about this and open to the conversation around anti-racism and creating more equitable organizations. It's happening all over the place, and it's happening in the theater. And it gives a fire to the values that we have and I have, and have begun to put in place to say, you got to go faster, and you got to do more, and you got to do it now. Yeah. And you got to build the long term, and you got to build simultaneously, you have to build the long term as well.
Yeah. That's a key for long term.
It was so long.
I don't know what the schedule of the program is. Is it time for other questions from
I think it is, but we only got to one.
Go do one more, and just like we'll speed through.
Well, let me see. Let me see how many.
Are there lots of questions coming in?
There are a lot of questions.
Okay.
Do you want to do a really quick one? Okay, can I just say, can I do one, which is, can I just name one?
Yeah, go for it.
The iconic, what did I call it?
Iconic performance?
Iconic performances.
Yeah.
Iconic performances. What
I have mine ready. Okay. Mine is Coleman Domingo in the original Broadway cast of Passing Strange. Fabulous, deserved a Tony Award. Yeah.
And did it change your life?
Yes, it did. I watched that freshman year because Spike Lee filmed it and they put it on Netflix. And so freshman year in the dorms, me up in my dorm loft, just tinily watching it over and over again. Amazing.
That's awesome.
Mine is Lupita Nyong'o. I'm here now. I sit in this chair as an actor. I can call myself an actor. I went to school because of Lupita Nyong'o in Eclipsed. I saw her. I stayed in my chair for almost 30 minutes, just kind of paralyzed with awe. And I said, I'm going to be an actor. Culturally, my parents didn't support it when I was younger, but I saw her and it was kind of I made a bold choice and said, I'm going to be an actor. So yeah, that performance kind of lives right here.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing both of those. I'll share a couple. They're coming to me, so I'm going to share them.
Okay.
April, we know April. April Brewer, who very generously delivered the cocktail kits to.
Thank you, April.
Thank you.
Acting Black has had some great success. Do you have future plans for it? What's your future plans for Acting Black?
Our future plans, first and foremost, is to get back together and be able to, hold on, a car is passing by.
I'll take it over. Our future plans are to get back in the same space, to be in the same room at the same time with proper lighting. Zoom is great, but we want to be we want to up our production value. Yeah. We want to continue talking and sharing moments with artists and actors of color, and having conversations just like these.
Be able to feed off of each other's energy in person.
Yes. We want to add some kind of performative element. I don't know whether that's monologues or Khalif is an amazing writer. Just, putting something together, just expanding the platform in any direction that it will go. We never knew that it would be this. It went from text messages to bedroom chats with lights to now we're talking to the artistic director of KCRep. So whatever direction it will morph into, as long as we're together, the sky's the limit, honestly.
People can subscribe to it.
Yes.
Go to YouTube, click the button, subscribe.
Oh yeah, do all the things, push all the buttons. We're gonna, because there's so many more questions, and the kind of questions that we're talking about now is the kind of stuff that we talk about. So if you want to continue this conversation, follow Acting Black, because the conversation continues. So find us on YouTube, type Acting Black Videocast. On Instagram, we're at The Acting Blacks. All the other names are taken.
Think about it this way. The show is called Acting Black. Yetunde and I, as the host, are the Acting Blacks. So our Instagram is the Acting Black, but the show, yes. Acting Black.
Couple just comments, tons of positive response and love for Khalif answering so honestly. I don't know at which point, but you answered very honestly. Much love for Yetunde. People are calling for a part 2 of this conversation.
I'm game. I have enough alcohol.
I'm game for it. Not right now. I'm not game for it. But in the future, I'm game for it.
Yes.
You all are.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
This is a kind of jumping back, super important and specific question for Yetunde and Khalif. What has been your experiences with stage management when they are either Black or people of color versus all Caucasian? How does your experience change in the rehearsal room? Depending on that.
Well,
Sorry, I was paraphrasing.
I will say that I've never had a person of color as my stage manager. I've always, but I have had some strong people on the production team be people of color. An experience that sticks out to me was the wig maker on Schoolgirls, which was done at KCRep. She was a woman of color, and she was such a powerful ally in creating a safe space that I didn't know I needed. Yeah. Because our hair was 50% of the story in Schoolgirls. It was our natural hair. And so just creating a space to talk about that and have someone who looked like me showed me the power of having a room that has diverse people. I've had trans people, I've had LGBTQIA people on the stage management team, but I've never had a person of color on my stage management team.
I've had like one maybe experience with a person of color as a stage manager. No, a few actually. But it's like I've had the reverse experience where it's like most of the time when I had white stage managers, they were always making sure it was a very equitable space and doing the most that they could. And even when we were in grad school where we had many of stage management students, they were always great to us. And then weirdly enough, on the other side, an experience I've had with a stage manager of color, that person was the one that somehow managed to bring disrespect into the room and made me and others feel very small. Yeah.
I was talking to another artistic leader actually earlier today from Kansas City, and Damron, and I got done with his call actually not too long before. And so I guarantee you he's not here. He was done. He was done. I could tell you. But one of the things we were talking about is the his work in trying to partner at the high school level to get young people of color into the theater and give them some experience in it that then needs to translate into university training. And then we in KC have to create opportunities and hold on to them here.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
you know,
The pipeline is so important because I often, before I knew more, I would complain. Like in my grad program, I wondered why there weren't more students of color. And after a conversation, it was about the pipeline. There were very few students of color auditioning. There are very few students of color who even came to the unified auditions. And so it starts, I think he's onto something. It starts earlier. You get the people in all of these careers, not right now, you get them while they're in high school. And so, yeah, he's onto something. That's where it starts.
Damron is watching. He wasn't done. He wasn't done. I thought Damron was done.
Damron hosted for the Black Rep a fundraiser that was like 8 hours long by himself. So
yeah, so Damron's never.
He's like the Energizer Bunny.
That's great. Oh, I got the update. Damron is watching with 3 exclamation points. That's great. Awesome. Oh, I forgot to do this. I'm sorry. I got to do this right now. You can order Lifted Spirits cocktail kits online at liftedspirits.square.site, and they're available for pickup at their space at 1734 Cherry Street. And want to thank them again. We're not wrapping up yet, but I forgot to thank them. So I just wanted to thank them really quickly. I was supposed to do that at the top. That's great. If you're game for this, we'll have another conversation. But before we wrap up, you all, in our melding of the way we approach this, we said that we would do what we typically have been doing at the end of these conversations, which is ask our guests, after all of this social distancing is over and we're actually able to go back and be social again, be with one and each other again, explore the city, which I still have barely been able to do. What's the first thing you're gonna eat? No, the order is you're gonna drink, you're gonna eat, and you're gonna experience when you're on the other side of this.
Oh, you want to go for it, Khalif, or are you still thinking?
Oh no, I can go for it. Yeah, sure.
Go for it.
The first thing I'm going to drink, I want to go somewhere and get a really good margarita. But, you know, just for the fact that it's outdoors, I want to make it really extra. And I want it to be inside of some glass that's like glowing. I want there to be a drunk bachelorette party nearby screaming at me. And so I want all those things. What I want to eat, I want to get on a plane and I want to come back to Kansas City and get barbecue. I haven't had Kansas City barbecue since like December, and I need it in my life. And what I want to experience, so in grad school for my like mental health and like making myself feel better, I found that my place in the world, like my small corner, is like the movies. A dark movie theater by myself with my large popcorn and large Coke. I want to go to the movies. Yeah.
We've had many a therapy session in a movie theater, just kind of like, this movie's awesome.
It's almost trash.
Are drive-in movie theaters a thing that you've been to or?
I've not been, but I hear it's making a resurgence.
Yeah, and supposedly there's one in Kansas City that's reopened just this last weekend.
Sorry, there was a sports car going by. Can you repeat that, please?
Oh, I just said I asked you if you go to drive-in theaters because here.
That's a big part of my childhood. Like Las Vegas and California, drive-through theaters everywhere. It's one of the things.
Yeah, they just opened. I forget the name of it, but they just someone just wrote Boulevard Drive-In just opened last weekend, and I guess they were like not functioning for a long time and they reopened it.
Yeah, there were a lot of them that were defunct because even movies, we got to see lots of movies together where we were the only ones in the theater because I just feel like people are streaming everything. But yeah, that's getting added to my list because I've never been to a drive-in movie before.
Yetunde.
Oh, my answer is
maybe that's what you're going to experience.
That's getting added to my list. But what I want when I get back, first of all, I can't wait to come back. Casey, I miss you. I love you. What I can't wait to have is a big, powdery, messy, sticky beignet from Beignet Just the sugar that just goes everywhere. And yeah, just, I can't wait.
Where is that?
Beignets in the River Market, and it's Louisiana Creole food that will make you kick your mama.
Awesome.
Those po' boys.
Yes, so I can't wait to have the sugar all over my face. One thing that I want to experience that I haven't gotten to experience yet in KC is going to the escape room, the one that's in the bottom of Union Station. I don't know what it's called right now, but I've never been to an escape room before, and I feel like it would give me anxiety, but I also just want to try it.
That blows my mind. In the middle of sheltering in place, and you and I have both been, you more so than I, for a long time, but me lately have been really quarantined for some family reasons.
Hardcore
but
quarantine.
You want to go to an escape room?
I do. I want to go to an escape room. Either that, or I want to go throw some axes. I want to like, now's the time to be extra. I've seen the axe throwing place opened shortly, like maybe last year, and it just looks terrifying and exciting at the same time. So, yeah. Oh, and for my drink, I really would love, I've never been to Lifted Spirits either. Kansas City, don't judge me. I don't get out much, but I want to go to Lifted Spirits, and I want to try this drink that I made the bootleg version of. So yeah, cheers to Lifted Spirits.
Yeah, cheers. And I that was an unbelievable segue, because I've got to say one more thanks. I'm happy to say one more thanks to Lifted Spirits for sponsoring this series. And they have a coupon code for those joining tonight. And you can use that coupon code. I hope it's the same one, Jen, to KCRep for 15% off next week's cocktail kit. And we encourage you to go and get that cocktail kit. It supports a local distillery, but also supports partnerships with bartenders who the service industry has really been impacted in this moment. And so that's a way to support a local bartender and restaurant, as well as a local distillery. And look on social media for what that drink is going to be next week. And we'll update on our guests that we're still firming up who's going to join us next week. And then Yetunde and Khalif, I wanted to say thank you for this conversation and spending some time with me and KCRep and featuring Acting Black. I appreciate both of you.
We appreciate you too. Thank you for having us, and thank you for being open to our experiences and our voices.
You are co-hosting, so do you all want to close?
Yeah, I would like to close by just saying thanks. And normally we would have tea. Stuart, do you know what tea is? Like, not tea, but tea.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I mean, I think a little bit. I think I don't.
Tea is, Stuart. Tea is so many things in the Black community. Right. So we would end our show by having a sip of tea. So even though we don't have any actual tea, we'll sip some tea and then we'll sign off. Okay. All right.
We're sipping tea. Thank you both. And I think we froze. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we lost Khalif.
Thanks everyone who joined. Thank you so much. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Bye everyone.
Look forward to further conversations. We're still live.
Oh, okay. Well.